Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Women Dialogues channel, the world's first channel to talk about women. First of all, thank you so much to each and every one of you for watching and listening and come back each time to see a new episode. I'm again joining you all with the new episode and dive in to learn, listen, watch, and grow. As I always try to bring authentic, true feminine stories to find voice and have our common and women conversation. In today's journey, I have an extraordinary guest with me, Miss Sandy Thompson, and I'm so glad and grateful that she's joining us. She is not only an educator at North Atlantic Qatar College, but she's a great warrior and motivator for thousands of people who are cancer survivors. So thank you so much, Sandy, for joining
Thank
us.
you. My pleasure.
So before we talk about the warrior and motivator, I would like to, from your side, to tell about your career journey.
I'm an educator now, but before that I started off as a theater major, and I did theater in my late teens and into my mid-20s. And then I moved into, I fell into social work. So I worked for Big Brothers Big Sisters and matched young children with volunteers. And then I worked at a group home for homeless teenagers at the same time as working at a shelter for battered women. And I did that for 10 years. And while I was doing that, I was living in a household with 3 or 4 other women who we'd all volunteered overseas with a group called Canadian Crossroads. And so I ended up living with these gals, and one was doing development education work. The other was teaching English as a foreign language because her placement had been in Botswana. And so I ended up falling into that job as well. So I started teaching English as a foreign language 30 years ago, and got my training. Once I realized I really love this, I went and got my certificate, and then my diploma, and then my master's. And about 9 years ago, I decided that I needed a change in my world. And I had a couple of friends that I knew that were living here in Qatar. And so just on a whim, I applied for the job. And 6 months later, I was here. I came for a 10-month contract, and I've been here for 8.5 years. Probably the same story. Everybody else in Qatar, you come for a very short time, and then boom, you make a life. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome, and that's really a great story. And having a lot of experience, it seems like bringing tons of experiences from different field and just ready to serve. So good.
Well,
That's
they're all
so
pretty much
good.
the same thing. You do theater in your classroom, and you do, and you get the students to do it, and you do social work in your classroom because we all have lives. We all have good days and bad days. Just as you bring the teaching into social work, they're all combined, really. It's, they fell into each other beautifully. The biggest concern was, at some point you have to decide which direction you're going to go in. Is it going to be working with teenagers, or is it going to be doing something else? But again, teaching in the college, I'm working with anybody from 17 up to 30 something. So it's, again, it's the same thing, all these things combined.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with your point. So, what is it like to having an international career, being a female?
Well, to be honest, and this is, I don't find that there's really any difference between me and the men that I work with in the EFL world, because the English as a foreign language world is quite unique in that everybody has to work as a team. There's, we're all paid the same rate. You're paid according to your experience and according to your level of education. Right. It's not about gender. Although I have worked at places in the past where definitely my being a woman, when I ran a school for 11 years, I was the director of a school, and, I'm not a golfer and I'm not a man. And so things that my predecessor and then the person who took over for me, what they did with the boss was very different from me. He would go to hug me if I was upset and we'd had a meeting and I'd expressed my views. He would go to hug me to say, oh, there, it's okay. But there's no way he ever would have hugged the guys, right? And I was like, no, hug is not appropriate here. Sorry. I'm allowed to be upset with you and you're not allowed to hug me. Not that I don't like hugging, but, in that setting. So that's interesting. That doesn't happen here, though. It's all about doing the job.
That does sound interesting, because while listening from you, it is bringing me a lot of memories, because as being working in gender field and diversity and inclusiveness. So when I was in United States, I was working on the similar way about the salaries or paying why different, or even those non-paid jobs by women, because so there is a definitely, it's a different, altogether different topic, and we can talk a lot about that.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
We sure
So,
could.
but it is important. It is very important to talk about. It is very essential to understand about the paid jobs and the work and salaries and non-paid jobs. And there's a already big discussion is going on, and a lot of
Yes.
research. So I understand, and I am so happy that you are finding like the place here that they are understanding and giving equal pay. I'm so happy. I'm so glad to hear that. Wow, that's wonderful.
Well, it's a Canadian college. There are standards, and the standards are based on your education and your experience. In fact, in Canada, we don't.
Yeah.
I would never put my photograph on a resume. I would never put my age, and I certainly would not put, whether I was married, had children, or what my religion was. And all over the world, that's a very different situation. But in Canada, they could not not interview me if I put my age down, or if they didn't like how I looked. Right. So this keeps the playing field even. They're looking at what you can do, what you've done in the past, and what you bring to the job.
That's something new for me, actually, to know about.
Okay.
That's cool. Anyways, so what kind of struggle one can have or face, especially females, while moving internationally? You might be facing, or it was very easy.
It was easy because I moved to an environment where I understood the culture already, because at the Canadian college, when I first arrived, it was all Canadian teaching staff. I had a ready-made group because there were people that I already knew, 2 people, and I came with 2 other people that I had trained, so I knew them as well. But the gender issues, I've lived other places in the world, so I'm used to the catcalls, if you walk down the street. But here, they don't really catcall you. Here, they might just stare at you as you walk past. And it's not so much, interest so much as what is she doing walking? Because now we have pathways everywhere. But when I arrived 8.5 years ago, if you were walking, it was a very unusual thing. And a female walking was even more unusual. Or a woman getting on a bus, that kind of thing was not really done here. So I would encounter more people staring at me, or people coming up to me that I didn't know, men coming up to me and asking my name, hi, how are you? And then asking for my phone number. And I thought, okay, like, I don't even know you. What are you doing? So those kinds of things were not alarming in any way, but unusual for me. It was something I had to adjust to, for sure.
Right.
Or the expectation when you go into I experienced this later when I had to go in for a fair number of medical appointments, when they would say, are you married? And I was thinking, why? How is that relevant? Well, because if you're not married, you can't have this test done without your husband's permission. I'd be like, but it's my body, And so those kinds of things took a few moments to get used to. And I'm sure that my response was not what they were used to getting either.
Right. Yeah. So like, as you touch about some of the points about the health issues, about the initial challenges. So as I know, I call you warrior, and you are so disciplined and in the practice of dragon board. But tell us, what is this Doha, this all about?
The Doha Wireless Warriors?
Yeah.
It started out as a breast cancer dragon boat team. So 11 years ago, when I was still at home, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And when I was sitting waiting for my appointment where they would actually do the second mammogram, I just happened to notice a brochure for a dragon boat group. And I looked through it. There was only one. So I looked through it and put it back. And I said to myself, okay, if I do have breast cancer, I'm going to check them out. Because I don't want to sit around talking about it, really, or I didn't. I wanted to action. So when I did have breast cancer, I went through radiation, etc. And then I joined this group in the spring. And I was dragon boating with them, the bosom buddies of Nova Scotia, for 2 years. Right. And when I came here, the first thing I did was look for water sport because it was my sanity, really. It saved me. There wasn't a dragon boat team. And then 1 year later, suddenly there was an advertisement, dragon boat is coming, anybody interested? And so, of course, I jumped on that. I was all over that. And that was 7.5 years ago. And the first thing I said to the man who brought the boat was, you know, I want to start a breast cancer team here. And I didn't have any idea how difficult that would be. But as you said earlier, you know, when we were chatting, is people don't really talk about women's health issues here. And certainly, you know, breasts, etc. That's not something you talk about. So I was diagnosed the next year. So it was 4 years after my original diagnosis. And when I was in the hospital, I said, okay, well, now I'm definitely going to get a team together. And 6 weeks later, I had the boat in the water. But it wasn't really until a couple of years ago, really 2 years ago, I started doing it on our anniversary date on November 14th. Right. I tried to bring all the cancer people that I knew together in the boat for a paddle. Right. And last year, a year and a half ago, I said, please, can you guys stay in the boat? It would be really good to have a cancer survivor only paddle. And so now we have that. We've had it for about 15 months, once a week. Just the survivors go out. And we probably represent, I don't know, I want to say 10 different types of cancer that are in the boat. And we're all about empowerment. But the Doha Wireless Warriors is really a cancer survivor and supporter dragon boat team. And so we are the community team. Our motto is rule number 1, have fun. We scream it every time we get in and out of the boat. We wear the hottest pink we possibly can. We bought a boat 3 years ago and it's painted hot pink, just like my glasses, right? It's hot pink. When we paddle, when we race, we wear hot pink wigs. Right. And we do a lot of speaking around the country, or certainly I do and a couple of the other survivors, because it's important to let people know that if you get cancer and if you get it early enough, it's survivable. And it's not just survivable, it's thrivable. You know, you need to live your life to the utmost.
Right, that's very important actually, because as you said very rightly, that you need to talk about, and when you are in community, and I think that's the right place to teach them or to make them acknowledge indirectly rather than putting them really in formal training or some sort of, they feel like outer pressure. So that is very important. Yeah.
We have some members of the team who nobody knows that they're survivors because they're not ready to come out yet. You know, they don't, and I understand this. When I was first diagnosed 11 years ago, I didn't want anybody to know that I was a cancer survivor. I didn't want it to color how they might see me. You know, not only as a woman, but as a woman running a school and all of those things. I didn't want it to affect my job, and I didn't want anybody to think it would affect my job. You know, so we're big on talking about it. And when people come in and they're a little shy or reluctant to say anything, we just say, oh, colon cancer over here, kidney cancer over there, brain tumor over here. And we just sort of name in the boat who we are and what brought us to the boat. And I think it's important to, and I think it's empowering for people to hear and see that we're normal. We just happen to have an event in our lives.
Right. Yeah, but I understand, and I totally agree with your work. It's really commendable, the work you are doing, and it's really great. But the point when you are talking about like stigma, or I think the people not really open to talk about what, since you've mentioned that you are a mission of to help cancer survivors because you have gone through on that journey. What exactly it feels like, why it is kind of thing? Because as a female, we know we already have a lot of issues, if and buts, and a lot of other
body image.
Yes, but what is
I think that, well, first of all, when I named the team, I was very cognizant of the fact that I shouldn't have any version of the word breast in there. So I shouldn't say boob. I shouldn't say bosom. I shouldn't say anything connected to breast. At least this is my thinking. So I called us the Doha Wireless Warriors because Doha made it easier for anybody searching for activities.
Right.
Wireless because after you've had either a lumpectomy or a mastectomy or radiation, anything to the chest, wearing a bra hurts. And wireless bras especially hurt because, you know, the wire is too close to your body. So we have to go wireless for a while. And warriors, because in the Amazon jungle, the female warriors used to remove one of their breasts in order to be able to use their bow and arrow better. So, you know, many of us are breastless or partially one breastless. And so, or fake breasts, whatever, you know, we're a wide variety. And so I wanted to make sure that the name had meaning for us, but didn't offend anybody in the community. That being said, it doesn't seem to be, you know, I will talk about it to anyone. After my second diagnosis, I sort of thought, well, okay, if you go from being a 34 triple D to flat, which I am, then it's going to be noticeable. Certainly anybody who knew me before would notice that something was different. So I thought, well, maybe I'm supposed to talk about this now. I didn't want to talk about it the first time, but maybe because, as you said, my body changed a lot. And while I was extremely comfortable with it, and because I'm quite a short person, nobody even notices, which is interesting because as a woman, you know, everybody, their first thought is, I need to have breasts. I need to. So I went the whole implant route initially. And I had 2.5 years of infections and inflammation, implants in, implants out, wrecked my body, you know, the radiation. There were so many problems. A lot of women don't have problems, but my body didn't like it at all. And so, you know, you have to also mourn that your body has changed. And I think our society doesn't really allow us the opportunity to grieve for something, whether it's a body part, whether it's health you're grieving. But I did that. And I gave myself 3 days, which doesn't seem like a lot. But after a day and a half of being really upset and crying, and, you know, I wanted to throw things, but I didn't, but I wanted to. I thought, okay, Sandee, this is exhausting. So it's all about empowering, not just empowering other people, Shashi, but it's also empowering ourselves. You know, and to accept what we look like and to accept that life is not without the odd bump in the road. And when the bump happens, you have to step over it and keep on walking. And that's what the team is really about, is you had an event. That event only defines you in that it has given you an opportunity to be more joyful. And it's given you an opportunity to reach out to others.
Yeah, I totally, you know, getting along with your point, like, as you said, how initially the feels like when you are coming from cancer survivor situation or from all those treatments and all. But a part of like when you are sharing your own experiences, but you have worked with a lot of, you know, survivors. So I know you are mentioning like it's about not only about others to empower ourselves as well.
Absolutely.
What kind of experiences or any other story you have found that changed people's lives, or like you felt like, yes, here we were there and here we are now?
Well, one of our members, he was actually Mo, Iraqi. He was in the boat with me from the very first day. He came for his mother-in-law, brought his whole family, and he's the one that stayed. And 3 years ago, he was diagnosed with cancer. So he'd been a supporter for the first 3.5 years of the team. And I remember driving in Canada. I was driving from one province to the other. And I get this phone call. I thought, why is he calling me? He knows I'm in Canada. And it was Mo saying, I just got results for something. I don't understand it. Can we talk about it? I pulled over on the highway. We had this chat on the phone. And it ended up that, you know, Mo had a feeling about his body, and he'd gone in for a stomach, what he thought was stomach, ended up being kidney. And they wanted him to wait. We don't know what it is. Let's wait. So we waited 3 months, and then they said, well, we still don't know what it is. So let's wait 3 more months. And he said, no, out, get it out, you know, get part of it out, all of it out. I don't care what you do, but you're taking this out of me. They said, well, we don't know what it is. He said, I know that something's wrong. And so they went in and they only had to remove part of one kidney, thankfully, and it was cancerous. And so, you know, he listened to his body. it was for something else, but he listened to his body. And the other thing is that he was insistent that something is wrong. And I think
Right.
for me, in my case, I didn't know either time that I had cancer. No idea. Didn't feel anything. But I
Right.
know other people who have had, a number of women in our group who have had, they're younger than me. And so they said, okay, well, now you're gonna have to go on this medication. And the medications are very hard on the body. They're really hard. Mine caused a heart event. With another friend, she actually had 25% damage to her heart. Other people lose their menstrual cycle and they go, well, and I did too. They kick you right into menopause. Boom, you're done.
Right.
So there's all kinds of issues that come up with these. And for me, the stories are really about how people overcome them, how people learn to have their own voice to say, no, you are going to do this for me. You're going to check this out. And how they also learn, I think, through the cancer journey, that they are allowed to say, this is my body. And although it might have hijacked me a little bit,
Right.
I'm still in control of what happens. It is up. You can't make that decision for me. Where I think a lot of people, I know a lot of people, and my surgeon has told me this as well, is a lot of people when they go in and they're diagnosed with cancer go, just tell me what you want me to do. I will do whatever you want me to do. And I didn't do that. And the people I know didn't do that. I had a stack of books. So the people that I know who have been on a journey, really, they were the ones that were educating themselves all along the way. As soon as they heard the word cancer, they were in a library, or they were contacting somebody, or they were, reaching out, trying to get information so that they could go in and have an informed decision, as opposed to letting somebody decide for them what was going to happen.
Right. Yeah, as you said, this is about being informed and taking right decisions. But same time, some of the things where I just would like to ask your experience or your understanding about, like when they lose their hair or due to some some treatment or not.
Yeah.
Is there any stigma in that case as well? Or
There
why?
is, because women were supposed to be beautiful all the time. And so, in a lot of cultures, they cover their hair because it's considered beautiful. And you share it with only people who are, your lovers. And, in my society, we don't, or in my religion or whatever, we don't cover our hair. However, it's still considered part of what makes you beautiful. We color it, we curl it, we do all kinds of things to it. And when it starts to come out, I personally, my hair thinned, but I didn't have it come out the same way. I didn't have chemo. I had it pill form, but I didn't have it injected into my body, dripped into my body. So it wasn't as harsh for me. But, for those who it's quite traumatic to, my best friend had cancer and she had hair down to her waist before me. And so to think I'm going to go from hair down to my waist, thick blonde hair, to bald is quite shocking. And so
I understand your point. It is about we see as a beauty and it's shocking. But I just would like to understand the way we accept ourselves, our body, whatever we have, and we take informed decision why we are having or we are not able to create that kind of passion that whatever way I am, whether I'm having hair or not, I'm beautiful.
Yes.
That kind
but
of
think about the media, Shashi, right? Think about the magazines that are out there. I'm 4'10". I am never going to be a runway model by any stretch of the imagination. And all of the images that we get from a very young age are these tall, skinny, not even thin, skinny, sickly looking women who are tall, but because they're very tall and slim, the clothes will drape on them really well. And so we grow up at a very young age with dolls and with all these images around us that this is beautiful. And if you don't look like this, you are not beautiful. And if you don't have breasts, and if you don't have hair, and if things are falling out, oh my goodness, you're not beautiful. And so certainly one of the things on the team that we do is we try and say to people, look, just embrace who you are. Look how gorgeous you are. And just embrace that. What the most important thing right now is to get strong, to get physically strong. So when you start to feel physically strong, you also feel more emotionally strong. And when you feel emotionally strong, you feel, okay, I'm ready to go in the boat now. Now I feel
Yes.
I can face people. So we try
Right.
really hard, people donate wigs, people do all kinds of things. And when a new member comes to our group, I say, look, we have these things if you want them, and if you
Mm-hmm.
don't want them, you don't have to take them either. But whatever
Yes.
you need, whatever's going to make you comfortable,
Yeah.
that's what we will help you with. And
Yes.
everybody has a journey. You might be comfortable initially with one thing. And then
Right.
after 2 months, you go, oh, I know a lot of people go, I can't stand this wig. It's too hot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. It doesn't look like me. I
Mm-hmm.
had bought prosthetics thinking,
Mm-hmm.
okay, although I went flat, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm going to want breasts. I better get
Mm-hmm.
prosthetics.
Right.
And I have to say to you, I
Mm-hmm.
decided, well, quite frankly, I don't want to take my breasts in and out every night. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
go, I don't want to walk into the world with breasts and come home and not have them. So I
Mm-hmm.
decided, you know what, this is who I am. I'm
Right.
flat, I'm fine.
Right.
And if people
Yeah.
don't look, if people stare at me, which they
Mm-hmm.
rarely do, but if they do, I just immediately say, yeah, I had breast cancer. It's all good.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Mm-hmm.
ends it. Or it opens up a
Yeah.
dialogue,
Exactly.
right? So
Mm-hmm.
you have to believe that whatever carnation you're in at that time, you are
Yeah.
beautiful and
Yes.
you're strong. Really, it's more about strong.
Yes, that's very empowering, and that's kind of thing I think we, as a female or as a woman, like they need to decide their own beauty meanings rather than getting implemented or taking from these outer world. Like, okay, this is the meaning of the dolls, or this is the meaning of beauty or being skinny. So yes, if you embrace yourself, whatever way you are, that's the real beauty. I really love that. I like that idea, and the kind of confidence and empowerment statement. So, what other way living here you feel like other female got any kind of struggle and how they
Um,
overcome?
I think a lot of people, and I'm not talking any particular culture. I think a lot of cultures struggle with independence.
Mhm.
We're in an environment, and even at home, you're in an environment where you're expected to rely on others, or you're living sort of under family or society's expectations of you. So,
Right.
for example, when I was going through all of my stuff, I was expected to need people. I was
Mhm.
expected to be immobilized, and they expected me to not be capable suddenly. And I
Mhm.
remember saying, I don't type with my breasts. Like, why? Yeah, of course, I'm going to be at work. Why wouldn't I be?
Mhm.
I might just be in a little pain every once in a while. And
Mhm.
other people, are okay. Well, I want to walk to work. I want to walk.
Mhm.
Why can't I walk? Of course I
Mhm.
can. But
Mhm.
it's learning about expectations. And it's also, I think, educating other people about who you are and why you want to do certain things. I have young friends on the team who the expectation of their family is that they get married now.
Mhm.
And these young women have been very well educated. They've gone to Qatar University, they've gone to CNAQ, some of
Mhm.
them have studied abroad, and they're not ready to get married. They don't want to get married and then immediately have to start having children and be
Mhm.
under the umbrella of another family. They
Yeah.
want a profession. And
Yeah.
so I see them struggling all the time, Shashi, to try and they're struggling against what their culture is expecting of them, what
Mhm.
they want, what their
Yeah.
family wants for them,
Right.
and which dream do I follow?
And I think it's not about the particular, have here. I feel it's many culture and many countries I
Oh
have
yeah,
seen. And
yeah.
originally, like as I belong from India, I have seen myself in my family when my elder sister, they were certain age and they were feeling like my father, and I feel for them, and I still they still complain about that, like
Okay.
that's
So they were
because
expected to get married at a certain
yeah,
age?
because they used to feel like we want to do that, but same time they were having pressure from my parents side, like
Yes.
because okay, you have other siblings as well, so we need to, at certain age you need to do that, because otherwise, there's a culture like, okay, one after another. So
Right.
that's
Right.
yeah. It is not about, I feel like it's in many cultures are these are kind of
It's true. In Canadian
dogmatic.
culture, definitely.
I feel
Yeah,
like
in
it's
Canadian
dogmatic
culture,
system.
it's
Yeah.
it's true. I mean, in my culture as well, many of my friends got married at a certain age, and my mother expected me to get married at a certain age.
Mm-hmm.
But I was from a little less traditional family, and my father was just do your thing. If you feel like you want to get married, get married. If you don't, you don't. Whatever. Just do your thing. Be happy, right? Live
Right.
your life.
Uh-huh.
And I always say to people, if you're blessed, it's a long life.
Right.
And if you're really blessed, it's a long and a happy life. And if you're
Mm-hmm.
not blessed, it's a short life, but you still have to make it a happy one. And
Mm-hmm.
so, when people say, oh, I don't know what to do with my life, I'm just going to do this job, I'm like, is it going to make you happy? Well,
Right.
no, but I'm expected to do that. I'm like, but it's a long life. You're going to be doing that. You're going to be
Mm-hmm.
unhappy for 40 years. And I
Right.
feel the same way about, the pressure, not just the young women I know here, but a lot of the young men as well to get married. Like, but
Oh.
if you don't like the person, or
Mm-hmm.
why are you doing it? It's a
Right.
long, marriage is may or may not be forever anymore, but you go
Right.
in with the intention that it will be
Yes.
forever,
Yes.
right? And
Exactly. That's
so
the purpose of all about.
it's exactly, so it's important. And,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of education that needs to go on in the school system, but with
Mm-hmm.
young women as well, about
Mm-hmm.
not standing firm so much as being true to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that there's a lot of pressure, and I know that it's very difficult because we all want to please other people and we want to
Mm-hmm.
please our parents.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they have a plan for us and we're not doing it, we feel like we're disappointing people.
Yeah. Yeah, but in that case, I feel sometimes I'm lucky because I was the youngest one, so I got enough time and I got
Yeah,
enough sense while seeing my elder siblings, what is happening all with them, what is happening all around their life. So I got enough time to be firm and be myself. And I was
that's
quite resisting all my decision. No, I don't want to do this. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna do that.
right.
So
You're going to follow your own path, right? Yeah.
yeah, I still remember those talks, and it's I feel sometimes it's kind of like trying to develop a culture and system as well. So doing this all, I remember my parents started really understanding. So at some point of time, I think we need to make them to learn what is really
Educated
required.
parents, I mean.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, especially if you have two parents. I had two parents who had very opposing opinions. My mother wanted me traditional, wear the skirts, get married, have the kids, dee 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 da 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 da. And my dad was do your thing. Just do your thing. And if marriage is what you want to do, then do that. And I understand that, from my mom, because she was the youngest of 13 in a traditional farm family, you know,
Mm-hmm.
she wanted me to, even though she didn't necessarily think it was the best option,
Mm-hmm.
she wanted to make sure that her daughters were taken care of. And
Right.
what I kept saying is, yeah, your daughter's going to be taken care of because I'm going to take care of myself. And if I
Mm-hmm.
get married, if I partner with somebody, then we will take care of each other. But
Right.
I wanted to make sure that no matter what I didn't have to rely on anybody for my rent, for the roof over
Mm-hmm.
my head, for anything. I wanted to make sure that whatever I did was a partnership.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
So,
are the great points. And actually, as I ask, and as a female, whatever point you said, how one can have to take the decision and how they have to reach on those points are
mm,
really important to understand as. And I just would like to ask about one more point, like
mhm.
what are the greatest learning point in your career, if
Mm,
I may ask you, being like having back and forth here and there and
yeah.
having a lot of international experience, if I would like to say,
Mm.
just give me one point, please, which I can
One
learn or
point.
my audience, like
Okay.
what is
I have one point, and it was what I did my master's dissertation on. And it's what, when I do teacher training, I tell everybody, and that is that the first thing you have to do is you have to connect. You have
Mhm.
to build rapport. So the big thing when we all went online last year because of COVID was, oh my God, I can't, how am I going to reach out to my students? I'm like, how do you reach out in the classroom? And I said, we had this conversation. I said, the first thing is you have to reach out. You have to
Exactly.
connect with whoever is across from you. So whether you're across the table from somebody, whether you're like this, we've only
Mhm.
met a couple times, but you have to reach out and be who you are. And you have to be comfortable enough with who you are
Right.
to reach out. You know, and there's
Yeah.
obviously techniques when you're teaching, you know, using
Mm-hmm.
names and making sure that you remember what people say to you and bring it back up. And, but it's really just about being human,
Yeah.
I think. You know, it's about
Mm-hmm.
being human and being honest and
Mm-hmm.
building rapport with the world around you, not just your class, but anybody, whether it's the Dragon Boat team, whether it's
Yeah.
somebody you're talking to on the internet, whether it's, doesn't matter, the person
Mm-hmm.
next to you on the airplane. You know,
Yeah.
building rapport is a much better world if we do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, and that's, I think, very important to make you feel, yes, who I am and how can I start next point of my life or my journey. So
I agree.
that's really great tip, I can say, because most of time uh, when I see myself at some point of time, we feel stuck. We feel
Hmm,
stuck, like we have no connection when you are moving to a new country,
sure.
and but being a sometime extrovert, you are taking a lead, so you need to take sometime those leads, even
Yeah.
though people are maybe welcoming or not, but they accept you slowly, gradually. That's a
Yeah.
great point. And I think a female need to really adhere or understand that that can make their life comfortable. Yeah,
I
that's
think you have
great.
to be willing to try new things,
Hmm.
right? And when you,
Yeah.
like, as you said, when you go to a new place, before I even landed in Qatar, I had found a
Mhm.
choir to sing with. I had reached out to the water boat community. I had
Uh-huh.
found a place to a gym to join. I had all these things already in place before I landed because I
Wow.
knew that if I had things that to do, even the first
Right.
week, it
Right.
would help me with my comfort level, you
Hmm.
know? And I think that no matter where we are, whether we're returning home, because expats eventually go back to their country,
Right.
you have to have a plan of some sort. And if
Yeah.
you're, I mean, I'm actually not extroverted, to be honest.
Mhm, mhm,
I am quite an introvert in many
mhm,
ways. And,
mhm.
but when I have a job to do or a task at hand, then my job is always to make other people around me comfortable. That is my job. And
Mhm,
so the idea is that if we all sort of approach new
mhm.
people with the idea that, okay, if I make you feel comfortable, I'm going to feel comfortable. And
Yeah,
then, wow, what a great bond.
yeah, yeah. That's wonderful. That's a really strong point. And
Mm.
just, is there any, is there something you would like to share, or you feel that people should know to grow themselves? If I miss something.
I don't think you've missed anything. I honestly think that in order to grow, you have to be open. You have
Mhm.
to, and you know, not every day do we feel this way. There are days when I shut my door, even weekends when I'm exhausted and I shut my door and I'm in here with the book and the cats, you know, and
Mhm.
friends or whatever, or nobody.
Mhm.
Depends on my mood. But I think we have to be willing and open, because if
Yeah.
you're closed off, then
Mhm.
people feel that they're not going to approach you. And if
Mhm.
you're open to any new possibility and any new
Mhm.
discussion, then
Right.
that's how we meet people and we grow. Because if we're
Yeah.
closed off, we don't meet anybody new, and everybody has something to teach us. And no matter who we meet, it's a growth
Mhm.
moment, I think.
Yeah. That's great learning. And I myself, I believe the same point, which you said, Sandy, that everybody is here to teach you something. And
Mm.
I love that quote. Every time, whenever I think and I meet someone, I feel like, okay, if I fail or pass, doesn't matter, but he or she
Yeah,
will teach me something.
it's
And
true.
it is really very strong point in my life, that I had lots of ups and downs in my personal life, professional
Mhm.
life. But always I keep myself, okay, it's okay. There is something to learn. So I
Yes,
should not
yes.
stop myself. And that's very important point.
But I
That
think the other thing is that gratefulness, you
mm-hmm.
know, to be grateful for whatever is in your wake, whether you start the
Mm-hmm.
day with being grateful, whether you end your day being grateful and reflecting. And, you know, this
Yeah.
could be through yoga, it could be through whatever people do. Everybody's got their own way of doing it. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's, you know, everyone's just stopping. And in the boat, every time we paddle, we stop halfway, half an hour, and
Mm-hmm.
we talk about what we're grateful for. You know, we
Yeah.
start with the physical sensations of the boat and the water and the wind, and then
Mm-hmm.
emotional, and then the people around us. And then we send love and light to whoever we know who is suffering or
Mm-hmm.
having a difficult time. And I think that that moment, and it's only a moment in the boat, maybe 3 minutes, it's just
Mm-hmm.
enough to ground everybody, to stop us for a moment, and just to think, oh, wait a second, I'm in a boat. I'm in the middle of the water. I live in a desert, and I'm in the middle of the water with all these people. Some I know, some I don't know, some I didn't know last week, but yesterday I went for coffee with somebody. This is all part of being grateful and being open to new experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So I think more of us need to be a little more grateful, even during COVID. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of horrible things happening, but there's also moments. There are wonderful moments within
Yeah.
these events, you know, and I think we need to appreciate them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful, and I'm really feeling like it's a grateful moment for me. Great advice, great suggestions, and I'm so pleased and grateful to be with you today.
Well, and
Thank
thank
you.
you so much for asking me to come and join you. You know, I'm
Thank you.
grateful that you've asked.
Thank you once again. Thank you so